guilty, 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 guilty.
That was Adam Schiff of California explaining to everyone during a congressional hearing what he tells himself before he goes to bed at night. Of course, he was actually talking about Donald Trump because that's all Schiff talks about. And I believe if you use AOC math, that means that Schiff wants to date Trump. If you would like to cringe today, here are the full comments by Schiff.
I want to begin by quoting the jury in the Manhattan hush money payment trial. Guilty, 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 guilty. This was what the jury pronounced unanimously on every count. My Republican colleagues don't really contest Donald Trump's guilt. This is the fascinating thing. Their argument is essentially he should never have been prosecuted, or they falsely claim it was a political prosecution, or they falsely claim it should have been a misdemeanor, not a felony. But they don't contest, not really, that Donald Trump was making hush money payments to a porn star to hide their affair from voters. What they're really saying is they're more than comfortable nominating and electing as the President of the United States someone making hush money payments to a porn star. The party formerly of the moral majority is now, I suppose, hoping to fashion some kind of immoral majority to reinstate Donald Trump as president. The presidency, the most powerful office in the world, and not the most powerful because of the size of our military, but because of the power of our ideas. And what is the animating idea of a Trump presidency? It is dictatorship. It is power at all costs. And this is also tragically the animating idea of the Republicans on this committee. Power at all costs. What else can explain what it would profit them to give up their political soul but a world of power?
There's two things that really stand out from his little performance there. The first one is the fact that he's saying guilty 34 times. For clarification, the 34 that he's referencing is 34 different documents or checks that Donald Trump has signed, which is how you get the 34 number, and they're all related to the one so-called crime. But that's the narrative that Democrats have chosen following the verdict, which is to take that 34 number and then act like Donald Trump murdered 34 different people. The second thing to note here is that it's very ironic Adam Schiff would be calling out anybody for being dishonest or committing a crime, when Schiff is known as one of the biggest liars and one of the most corrupt politicians on Capitol Hill, which is really saying something. Now I'm going to play an example of just how far Adam Schiff is willing to go with his lies and propaganda. And after you're done watching this video, definitely do not go look up Adam Schiff and the Standard Hotel.
You said that there was direct evidence of the fact that Donald Trump colluded with Russia back in 2016. Special counsel Robert Mueller said in his report, quote, "The investigation did not establish that members of the Trump campaign conspired or coordinated with the Russian government." Republicans argue that's proof that you used your position on the Intelligence Committee to intentionally mislead Americans, which is why you should not be on that committee.
We will be putting together a report that will set out for the country what evidence we have seen to date, what evidence we have seen in terms of the Russian hacking and dumping operation, what evidence we have seen in terms of the Russian social media campaign, their paid media campaign, and yes, the issue of collusion with the Trump campaign. There is significant evidence, much of it in the public domain, on the issue of collusion. The work is too important to leave undone. In particular, the American people need to know whether the Russians still have something they can hold over the president's head. If you read the Mueller report, he makes clear, even in the first few pages of the report, that he states no conclusion on whether Donald Trump and his campaign colluded with the Russians. But let me just, set the record straight. This is only one of a shifting series of rationalizations and pretexts that McCarthy is using.
Well, let me give you another. He says that this is part of a pattern. Ahead of the first Trump impeachment, you said the committee had not spoken to a whistleblower. In fact, that turned out not to be true. You know, the Washington Post said so in their fact check.
Do you anticipate when we might vote on the ability to have the whistleblower in front of us, something you, the 435 members of Congress, you are the only member who knows who that individual is, and your staff is the only staff of any member of Congress who's had a chance to talk with that individual. We would like that opportunity. When might that happen in this proceeding today?
First, as the gentleman knows, that's a false statement. I do not know the identity of the whistleblower, and I'm determined to make sure that identity is protected. The Washington Post identified that, yes, before the person became a whistleblower, they sought advice from the committee. When I was asked the question, I thought they were referring to whether we had brought the whistleblower in. And I should have been more clear in my answer. I do not know the identity of the whistleblower, and I'm determined to make sure that identity is protected.
Please seek help.